16. Gryph floated peacefully, detached and at ease. A part of his mind demanded his attention. It was a distant call through a haze of fog and static, and Gryph pushed it away like an overtired child ignoring a parent's call to wake for school. A whip-like snap to his face brought him to full consciousness. The pain was severe, and he opened his eyes. Another snap hit him on the cheek, and he grasped up with his hand and stopped the attack. The denizen of the deep? It was not the denizen attacking him, but the other half of his own spider silk rope, still animated by the spell. He grabbed the rope, stopping it from slapping him again. I'm awake, he grumbled, and his eyes focused. His hand held the other end of his torn rope, and the silver filament was arching again, like a cobra ready to strike. Reality came rushing back to him, and he realized his halo of air spell was down to 10 seconds and blinking furiously. He was still on the denizen's back, held tight by the torn length of Empyrean spider silk. His brain spent a precious second thanking the oddly intelligent length of twine, and then his mind rushed back to its purpose. Gryph grabbed the shaft of his spear and pulled himself up. He peered over the edge of the shell and saw Tifila being dragged closer and closer to the beast's beak of a mouth. She was screaming in silent horror. Gryph placed both hands firmly on the shaft of his spear and pushed with all his might. It slid deeper into the shell, and Gryph could feel it scraping against the jagged edges. The denizen began to spasm and flail, and it flung Tifila from its grasp. She flew head over heels past Wick and disappeared into the murk. Gryph pushed harder and felt the tip of the spear snap through some kind of membrane deep inside the beast's body. The creature's flailing became much more intense as it let go of Wick and Mirthandir. Wick swam limply after Tifila, and Mirthandir shook his head, trying to regain focus. Gryph grinned at the small victory, but it was short-lived. Desperate, the beast slammed all 5 of its tentacle arms back at Gryph. He avoided several blows, but others pummeled him with incredible strength. Each blow stole nearly 10% of his health, and he'd taken at least 5. Gryph pushed with the last of his strength, and the spear tip punctured something dense yet squishy. He activated the spear's new power, Lightning Storm. As he felt the charge pulsing from the spear, a part of his mind wondered whether sending millions of volts of electricity into a giant pool of water while he swam in it was the best of ideas. He knew the power would seek enemies and not friends, but that was on the surface, where there was air, and air was not the best conductor. Water, however. Gryph's entire world became pain as the surge of electricity arced through his body. It felt like the time his childhood friend Rob had convinced him that putting a fork into an electrical outlet would be real fun. His muscles clenched and his health plummeted. Dozens of flashes blinded him as bolts of lightning exploded from inside the denizen's shell. His muscles seized, but he refused to let the pain stop him. He pushed with all his strength, and the arcing spike of metal sunk deeper into the denizen's shell. He was close to passing out when the maelstrom ended. You have scored a critical attack on Denizen of the Deep. A critical attack is like a critical hit, but where a critical hit directly results from a skilled, lucky, or sneak attack with a weapon, or unarmed skill, a critical attack is granted when a magical, poisonous, or similar attack is delivered to a particularly vulnerable area. You have scored a critical attack to the brain cluster of a denizen of the deep, plus 300% magical damage. You have done 1,050 points of electrical damage to the denizen of the deep. 25 base damage of lightning storm times 14 current air magic level times 3 critical attack bonus. Gryph slumped in exhaustion as the last bits of the denizen's life bled into the water. The giant corpse drifted in slow, lazy arcs, its tentacle arms floating freely as black ichor spilled from innumerable wounds. He was barely alive. His health bar blared crimson fury as it hovered just above 10%. The halo of air flickered a dire warning. He went to cast the life-saving air spell again, but found that his hands would not make the complicated series of gestures necessary to control and focus the mana. His muscles seized and relaxed in random patterns, and his body would not obey his commands. Despite the pain surging through his body and his imminent death, he felt a ragged, uncontrolled chuckle in his throat. The denizen's body floated to a stop, and Gryph could see the dim light of the surface several dozen feet above his head. Well, fuck, Gryph thought. He was about to die. Again. On the bright side, I'll get to see Simon again. The stupidity of that idea brought a horrid rictus grin to his face as every muscle in his body seized and relaxed at random. Through the twitching pain, Gryph felt a deep rumble build inside the denizen's shell. The rumble grew more powerful, and Gryph's mind couldn't help flash back to the arbaleth larva that had attacked him in the barrow. He was just starting to wonder if this disgusting beast had something similar when his halo of air blinked out. He was drowning again, and this time he couldn't prevent it. They always said drowning was an easy way to go, but the burning and ripping sensations shredding his lungs made Gryph want to slap the crap out of them, whoever the hell they were. The last of his air bubbled from his mouth, and his eyes glazed over, when suddenly the shell exploded like an over-microwaved hot dog. Gryph shot upwards towards the surface like a cork from a champagne bottle. His health dropped further, but he couldn't know if it was due to the drowning debuff or damage from the denizen's exploding brain. He shot upwards towards the light, towards the surface. His eyes grew heavy, and he decided it was time to close them.